2 here, wide open telephones. Coming up, Washington Post suggests Bilderberg Group to pick Romney's running mate. What does that signify in the media that they're going that public after telling their readers it didn't exist for decades? I guess their deceptions don't work anymore, Too little, too late. Right-wing group slams HBO's Angry Boys for sexualizing children with girl sucking on bleep cup. I mean, and then the media's like, oh, those right-wingers, they don't like, 6-year-old kid doing sexual acts on TV. Oh, they're such squares. Oh, they're such squares. They're not into mutilation. Oh, they're such squares. They're not into being amputees. People are into having their arms and legs chopped off now, and the really trendy ones get both arms and legs chopped off and then live in a box, and you wear a diaper as an adult with your arms and legs chopped off. Thousands have it in the U.S. It's the ultimate in trendiness. And they told the Chinese empresses, they said, you are royal. You have to stay in this forbidden city. Next, your feet. It's very beautiful and vain to have small feet. Let us bind them so you can't walk. And we must feed you. You have to have long fingernails. And then they just became addled prisoners of the ruling class bureaucracy. And that's what they do now. They just tell women, hey, you got to throw the men out of your house and hate them. It's trending. They're like, let's do it. And they come out and say, chop your arms and legs off. Everybody's like, hacking them off, blood spraying. I love it, trendy. Of course, they have lesser degrees of it. It's true. It's a big thing now. They even made a film about it a few years ago to get shot. So you go to the artist, and via free association, people are allowed to do it. And then they'll put like a 45 or 338, 357 up under your arm and then shoot you. So you've got a big splatter wound in the back to look, really tough when you're at the pool, man. It's also, women are getting scars on their faces now to just show how tough they are, just how into death they are. Don't worry. That's all just the preparation for the bioweapons to be released. You'll be dead enough soon. You'll be a rotting skull that you think so beautiful. You'll get what you want, probably. I'll go back to Mike in New York. Mike, what was your point here in the 2 minutes we've got left? What was the point you were raising about an evil garden?
Talking about your point, Alex, don't you know it's called Naughty America? I mean, it's the biggest porn production, and they hype on, sweet lips, and this is okay, and it's great, and it's glamorous, and trying to attract young fellows and young gals into the industry. But
what happened to your evil garden?
Evil garden. 2 years ago, neighbors moved in and out next door, and they take down the fences, put up the fences, and the woods is close by. So woodchucks in particular are invading our property, our residential area. Okay, 1/2 acre lots and so on and so forth. And I'm growing all my vegetables, in pots, raised pots.
So you're not allowed, what? Let me guess, you're not allowed to kill the holy woodchucks.
Well, we tried every way we could to capture them with have heart traps and so on and so forth. And
just use a high-powered pellet gun. Your pea-brain neighbors will never know. So what happened?
Okay, so yeah, I thought about that and stuff, but first we call the law, and when a raccoon is sitting out on a Sunday afternoon, 11
See,
o'clock in the morning,
you got to call the police. That's what they've done. You got to call the police for a raccoon.
You got to follow the law. That's what they got us trained to do. So, anyways, a police officer comes out, who I've known. I went to elementary school.
Okay, listen, I got to hear the end of the story, but you got 1 minute on the other side. I got to hear about you call the police for a raccoon. You can build a very inexpensive silencer for a 410 shotgun. We'll be right back. Stay with us, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, we're going to finish up with Mike here, a caller. If you just joined us, he's calling us from somewhere in New York. When they have woodchucks, raccoons invading their property, and I guess the police are saying you're not allowed to do anything to them. In fact, I've seen cases in New York, in the country, in a rural area. Remember like 15 years ago, he got arrested for killing a rat? And then it was such a big deal that he'd killed a rat that neighbors called the police on him and he went to jail for animal cruelty. Now, remember, you can buy decon rat killer all day, but he was arrested. Again, there's no law. You've got to take a vaccine, but more and more they're taking your kids. It's a lawlessness. So if you've got raccoons invading and getting in your trash can or eating your backyard garden, just get a high-powered pellet gun and start shooting. I mean, that's what I'd do. And I was joking about building a silencer. That's illegal. But they do have primitive silencers that you can use, on a shotgun or something if you don't want to bother your neighbors. But obviously don't use a shotgun in the city. I mean, I've got a friend out in the country, and he's got a line of tires out in front of his little shooting bench. He lives in the country. He can shoot, all day if he wants. But he doesn't like to bug his neighbors that are, 10 acres over. When he's shooting high-caliber, guns that are really noisy, and for a long time, he shoots through the barrels at the target. And so looking at the scope, you don't even see the barrels around it. But it just dissipates the audio to an incredible level. In fact, my dad was out there at the mutual friend's house just a few months ago shooting and just said it was amazing that it was such a... But again, I digress with a factoid there. I mean, look, a Daisy Red Ryder that costs like $50. My children have got those, and they're incredibly accurate. In fact, I felt kind of bad the other day across the creek. It's about... From my porch to across the little creek, it's probably about 50 yards. And there was a bird sitting up in a tree. And I was shooting, showing my son, that he could shoot things that far away with it, but how to elevate. And I just knocked that bird right off its perch and killed it. I wasn't even trying to kill it. I was just trying to shoot in its general direction to make it fly. But a Red Ryder single pump won't kill it, probably won't even pierce the skin, the raccoon. You start lighting them up with that, they're not going to come around. If you have fish ponds and they're coming in and eating your fish, it's time to, I mean, my parents have them invading their house if they forget and don't close the dog door for their French bulldog. And my dad nicely goes in with a broom, and one time he had, I think 14 of them in the house. Raccoons are really smart. And I said, listen, Dad, you got to start shooting them with a pellet gun. They think they run everything. You pull up, you walk up. Sometimes as it's getting dark, you see coons on the roof looking at you. My dad's like, oh, I kind of like them. I'll just restock the pond. So there's coons waiting around eating all his fish. That's why mountain lions eat people out in California, not in other states. Because in other states, they're hiding because they know you'll shoot them. Same thing with wolves or coyotes. Now coyotes are coming into built-up areas, and for the first time in over 100 years are killing people. It's always the same. A woman is walking at the park, runs, falls. 5 coyotes chew her throat out. If you wouldn't have run from them, they wouldn't have thought you were a prey animal. We got mountain lions here. It was in one of the local papers just a few months ago that somebody had one of those deer feeder cameras out, motion cameras. And there was that big old mountain lion. We got big ones around here. Those things are so scared of humans, and they should be. Because if I see one in my backyard, I'm going to shoot it. Because if I don't, they will kill my little children. That look like juicy, delectable treats to them. They need to learn that we're the dominant species. They're like roaches, and they're beautiful animals, but they're all over the place. They're not letting people kill polar bears up in Canada and Alaska in many areas. So they're now starting to kill people. They're coming into the towns. They're starting to come further and further south. Their numbers are up conservatively 3-fold. Some estimates are 5-fold. I'm now digressing. I've got to move quicker to calls. Okay, Mike, so long story short, you're supposed to call the police when the raccoons are assaulting you. Sounds like you live in a suburb, quasi-rural area. Tell us where you live. Finish the story.
Orange County, New York, and you're kind of on the right track. A friend, a police officer, comes out, and we tell him about the story and stuff, and you know what he recommends? Something you didn't discuss, but a CB22. And if come to find out, it's totally legal because there's no gunpowder in it. It's just primer, and it doesn't exceed 700 feet per second, which is coming up in the trial. And the ironic thing about this is this cop, I'm so angry at, is that he came up and lied. that he didn't have any idea what I was talking about. He didn't recall the incident, so on and so forth, to save his butt, so to speak. Anyways, the story evolves how I got arrested. I killed probably 30 woodchucks, took 2 shots, typically. But on this one afternoon, the same neighbor that was there while this officer instructed me and said, "Why don't you just shoot him, Mike? You're a good shot, aren't you?" I said, "Of course, Pete." I said,
well, how did you get
together.
arrested for shooting stupid woodchucks?
Yeah, exactly. So, the neighbor got mad after a 12-hour workday. I was working around my house at 7 o'clock in the evening. I see this woodchuck up here, so I shoot him. And I got him right in the head. I know. I come outside. I said, "Jim, my next-door neighbor, did you see the woodchuck?" He says, "What?" He says, I just shot at a woodchuck." He says, "You promised never to shoot it when my kids were at home." I said, "What are you talking about?" And he promptly went inside his house.
Let me ask you a question. Are you in a rural area, quasi?
Semi-rural.
Yeah, listen, I've seen cases now. I've seen 2 in the last 3 or 4 months where people live on the edge of the country. They've lived there for years, and they shoot a deer, or in one case, a guy ran over one and thought, "Well, I just killed it. I'll go butcher it," which actually makes a lot of sense. In some areas, they take the fresh roadkill and feed it to the homeless. It's good meat. And now, if people see you butchering a deer, they call the police. And even though it's not illegal, they arrest you and say it's disturbing the peace. These idiots go to the store, buy meat. I saw this a few years ago. I was out fishing, and I was at the boat dock. I'd come back from fishing, back when I had a little time to do such things. And there was a fisherman there cutting up a bunch of catfish and bass, and he had an electric knife. And I saw these trendies go by, I guess down to the sailboat area. And they were like, "Oh, my gosh, he's cutting fish up. Ooh." I mean, they're so domesticated. They don't know where electricity comes from. They don't know where the meat in the store with a saran wrap on it comes from. I've seen cases where people have seen their neighbors skinning squirrels. They went and shot legally. And then they call the police on them, calling it animal cruelty. I mean, I remember my grandpa routinely would walk out in the backyard, shoot a squirrel, skin it in about a minute, and go in and cook it as a little side dish to what my grandma would make. And to the average person, that is weird. To the average person, it is weird and like abusive to have deer hanging up. I mean, that's what humans do. We'd be a lot healthier if we actually did hunt and butcher stuff ourselves. These people are crazy. They're crazy. Raccoon pot roast. I don't think that would be too good. Talk about gamey. But I'll tell you, in the Great Depression, even middle-class people had to, sometimes there wasn't even meat at the store, or you couldn't afford it, and there were almost no raccoons, possums, or deer left in East Texas, where my dad's family's from, at the end of the Depression, because they'd eaten them. And I'm like some barbarian creature, and I'm not even good at chopping up a deer perfectly like my dad or my uncle can do. I mean, I know how to do it because I've done it a few times, but it's kind of like you just let your kid be lazy. Like, "Oh, Alex, you shot 3 deer today? Well, that's what I could shoot this year," and they all came by. Okay, you got to help us. And halfway into one, I like wander off into the cookhouse, and my dad's out there field dressing it all, and then chopping it all up, and side issue. Boy, I need to be arrested. I'm bad. Let's go ahead and talk to Fred in Wisconsin. Thanks for holding, Fred. You're on the air.
No problem. Hey, Alex. It's your friend, the SOPA protester. We talked a few months ago.
Yes, sir.
The reason I'm calling is I wanted to know, did you see this video that was released of the autistic child that was shocked 31 times for not removing his coat?
Yeah, in fact, I mentioned it yesterday, and people would think that I try to make the system look bad, but most of the time I don't even use the information I've got against the system because I've already looked at it, and it's so depressing to watch that I then don't even play it on the air. That's what I'm saying. If I'm guilty of anything, it's holding back. Guys, will you cue up the video of the autistic child being shocked? We had it up at Infowars.com, and I'm going to have that reposted there on the site because there is an epidemic of torture and what they call pain compliance. And so we'll play that after the break, but give us your take on that.
Well, you know, I watched this, and this is because he wouldn't remove his coat, and all I could think was, this is my brother, this is my sister. They'd be lucky if they got this guy in court before I got to him, because it made me so angry. I mean, 31 times. This is torture, and the kid's autistic, you know, so they bring him to the hospital.
No. Torture is now legal. They call it pain compliance. The courts have ruled. They can break arms. They can kill you. And again, and again, it's really illegal, but the crazy scum are just normalizing it. Do you see what's happening?
They're laughing while they're doing it, and this center is still open. Why isn't this guy's face on a 2012 poster? Why isn't this all over the media? You know, they're covering the story in Florida.
Sir, I've got footage of them breaking protesters' arms now. They are trained not to break your arm. I mean, HBO shows little girls engaging in fellatio on television. I mean, and then the media says we're bad for not liking it. Anything else you want to add?
It's just sick. It's always fun to hear from you, Alex.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, we'll actually come back and play part of that. Torture. Well, it's not torture. It's freedom. It's freedom. You know, there's one more kid that'll never get to go to school, never get to have a good life, never get to be cool.
People sleeping in their shoes. There's a warning sign on the road ahead. There's a lot of people.
You know what blows me away about pain compliance? They just renamed torture pain compliance. And Homeland Security, of course, 3 years ago, had meetings and proposed fitting everyone who gets on an airplane at the airport, at the TSA molestation slave training facility, with a taser bracelet. Now, already with the masses of brain damaged and neurologically harmed children, the little dungeons they have for them at the public schools get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And so all over the country, they have them fitted with these taser belts and taser bracelets. And they have the restraint chairs. And if you don't follow any order they give you, you are tortured, in this case, for 7 hours. And when it's on the news, they're like, it's controversial. No, it's illegal. You're just power grabbing. You're just training us that we have no rights. You're training us that we're slaves. You're training us you can do whatever you want. And I've seen federal and state courts rule police can taser you to make you answer questions or urinate in a cup. Those are real cases. Look them up. One case, they tortured a guy, what was it, 8 times to make him answer questions? What happened to the Fifth Amendment? This is like North Korea, what they're trying to do. They're trying to have this revolution against our republic and common sense and due process in the name of safety. But the greatest danger is a government that acts like this. And it's happening. Everything our forebears warned us of. And so here's a child being tortured for not taking his coat off, autistic, probably by all the vaccines. It's mainly boys because their blood-brain barrier isn't as strong. They don't doubt it's exploding. They just say, keep taking the shots, everything's fine. And that's not enough. Now they're going to taser him over and over and over and over again. And this is the mainlining of it, where we're animals that get cattle prodded if we don't do what we're told. Police say, license or registration? No. Bzz, do it until I tell you. Give it to me now. Bzz. This is what they're telling him to do. It's about, they're the boss. And now the cops are like, you can't go in the city council building at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So it says public building. I got a gun right here, pal. Get your InfoWars reporters and get out of here. Let's go. I mean, this is the essence of tyranny, and they're going to take your bank accounts, devalue your dollar. See, with all this tyranny, they're setting this tyranny up because they're going to hurt everybody. You understand? People are like, oh, I don't care if they're doing that to people. So what? They want to hurt you, too, because they like it. And a lot of these cops aren't even bad people. They just believe, well, I'm allowed to taser you for no reason because I'm in charge. Let's go ahead and go to part of this local Fox News clip on this report. Here it is.
The public can see for itself what these controversial electric shocks look like in use.
No, 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 help me, help, 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 help.
pause.
Dramatic video of New
This
York.
man is on a rack like they had in dungeons 800 years ago. It's a little controversial, but you know, it's needed. Let's cut to a prison school. That's what they are, with a guy on a rack. And they tortured him for 7 hours. And it's just like, oh, up next, HBO shows 6-year-old girls performing fellatio. Again, it's just all psychological warfare, and they admitted this. It's just getting you ready. And now they're like, well, we are actually looking at releasing a bioweapon to kill most people. And the media's like, maybe it's needed. If it's trendy, I mean, again, this is the Twilight Zone-ness. Go back to it, because the real torture's about to begin. Go ahead.
That was shock number 16 or 17. 31 that day.
As McCollin's attorney just described, the teenager was shocked 31 times in all that day in 2002. McCollins is suing the Canton-based center, calling it torture.
We're going to go to break and come back. But the point is, this is being done in schools everywhere, not just this facility. So they tell parents, don't spank your children, don't be in charge when they're little. So then they're out of control. Well, now you put them in torture chairs. See how they do this? The state says don't spank your child and we'll take them, but we're going to shock them. See how that works? We'll be right back. No, it's not America when all over the country citizens are arrested for videotaping police in public. And kept juries are finding them guilty and sending them to prison. We die for the system. They know what they're doing. And they're doing it in our face. Just like yesterday. By the way, have you talked to McBreen? Are we going to get an update from them in the third hour? Chris? Because as I announced yesterday, we're going to have them back on the show today. So when I said we're not having guests, that's not really entirely completely true. We announced on the radio yesterday. We'll get another update from them and on the nightly news and, of course, on Monday here in studio up there in Georgia, where the gentleman kept beating them in court, dealing with the chickens that he had on his little farm. But they showed him he's dead now. And when our crew got there and tried to go on the city council, the police pulled up and acted like they were criminals and said, turn your cameras off, and said, you're not allowed in there. And, of course, we could have forced the issue and gone in, and then heaven knows what would have happened, because here are a couple articles, speaking of tasering children. Georgia man sues the police. Here's another one. Georgia man says autistic son tasered. They also then charged the guy with a whole bunch of felonies, but a jury did not convict him. A Georgia father said Monday that he was outraged over police use of a taser against his son. The man said the son suffers from autism and officers knew it. Another one of the vaccine damaged. Well, see, the problem is that the vaccine didn't kill him. I mean, that's the problem. So he's got to be tasered. The incident was captured on police dash cam video. The video was presented in a Cherokee County courtroom. His son, J.D. Moran, said multiple officers surrounded him, cuffed him to the ground, and then tasered him. Well, yeah, like, the person's not resisting. He's leaving. They wanted to show him he shouldn't have said something to John Kerry. And so he's got his hands there up, like, why are you doing this? Why did you tackle me? Why are you grabbing me? And he just says, don't taser me, bro. And they're like, we're going to. This is our power. The globalists put cancer viruses in our shots and fluoride in our water. They like killing us, and we like killing you. Now have some voltage. And because tasers aren't killing enough people, they've upped the power. And they said they're going to up it again. They're just going to be upping it and upping it till, like, yeah, you die sometimes if we do it, but you want to take that risk? Do what we say. Do what we say. And as society degenerates, it's not just the police that are degenerating, it's everything. It's going to get crazier and crazier. And it's on the tape that they tackled him, jumped on him. You know, he had the handcuffs already on. And then they charged him with resisting because they wanted to taser him to show him a little lesson. And then it's like, oh, and you assaulted us. We're going to put some felonies on you. But the video doesn't show that. So they're like, oh, gee, I wish that taser was maybe 5 times more powerful. Then there wouldn't need to be a trial, would there? But hey, there's people above you that like to kill too. Don't worry. And they are. It goes on. Parents of autistic boy who was tasered question police actions. Here's another one. 12-year-old autistic boy was shot last month with a police stun gun at the Hawthorne Middle School. Accused police officials, not servants, officials, kings, on Monday of removing their son from school in handcuffs days after the incident and subjecting him to interrogation in retaliation for a misconduct complaint the family had filed, on top of now the tasering. All right, let's go to your phone calls. I got a bunch of news I will get to. Let's go ahead and go to Smedley. I love that name. In Montana. Go ahead.
Howdy there, Alex. Greetings from a beautiful big sky day here in Montana. Sorry I don't know my FEMA region right now. I'd like to think of it as the state of Montana for now anyway.
Yeah, what FEMA region? But we should point out under the globalist and the NAU, they do say we're already in the global region system, and this is not the United States officially. So what? Oh,
exactly.
What region? Guys, pull up 10 FEMA region map, and I can tell him what region he is in. Sorry, go ahead, caller.
I'm going to do that later. I was going to do that later. But I wanted to tell you about a couple things, Alex. First of all, I really enjoyed the video, the recent one with Sean Stone. I just think that's really an excellent collaborative effort between you guys. And the funny one that was a while back, just your staff, Aaron Dykes, Darren McBreen, Rob Dupe, just really think you have a dream team staff going right there in the fight against tyranny, Alex, and just want to give those guys a little credit too. But I had one thing I wanted to tell you about was some Ron Paul supporters from up here in Montana. I saw a poster of this Wesley Clark speech that he was coming, and they had talking points on there, and they made it look like he was going to, we're going to tell the real truth about 9/11, and I don't think we were told the real truth on that, and other things on there, other talking points, I can't remember them all now. About, we were going to attack these countries in this certain order. So I thought, this could be real interesting. So a lot of us went, and they said that there was going to be a question and answer period with him, and so there really wasn't. It was 3 students, chosen students. They got up there, and let me tell you about this speech, okay? So he gets up there, and he gives the speech, and afterwards the students give him, just lob softballs to him. I mean, there was no questions about the NDAA or wars without congressional approval. These were just little softball questions anyway, but this is what the speech was like, Alex. It was absolutely, you could tell, he was 100% just New World Order all the way, because he starts out, he's telling us, it was like he had just seen your speech on democide, because he gave us about 15 points on how great the government is. Everything, they built our railroads for us, they built our highways.
No, government literally is God to these people, and that's why they want to ruin our reproductive system. So you've got to go to the Government Health Bureau to have them basically turn your DNA back on to rehabilitate your fertility. And they've said that was their plan in all their policy reports. It's all a scientific dictatorship using Kim Kardashian and all these diversions to distract people from the real world. Great points. Good to hear from you. By the way, you're in FEMA Region 8. We'll put that back up on screen for PrisonPlanet.tv members. There is the 10 FEMA regions, and the globalists break every other country into 10 sub-districts as well. And the world is broken into, quote, 10 kingdoms, according to the Club of Rome and UN. Of course, we also read that in the Bible. They model it after that. The 10 horns. In fact, let's put the map back up for radio listeners, and I'll tell folks what... if you're up in the extreme northeast, Maine, down to Massachusetts, and a little bit below, you are in 1. New York has its own region along with Rhode Island. You are in number 2. Pennsylvania down into Virginia and West Virginia is FEMA region number 3. If you are in the deep south, Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, Kentucky, you are in FEMA region 4. If you're in Kansas or if you're in Missouri or surrounding areas, you are in FEMA region 7. If you are in Texas, New Mexico, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, you are in FEMA region 6. And if you are up there in the mountain and northern states, in that area, FEMA region 8. California, Nevada, and Arizona are FEMA region 9. And, of course, then you have Idaho, and you have Washington and Oregon and Alaska in FEMA region 10. And Hawaii is also part of FEMA region 10 under the Emergency War Powers Act restructuring of 1933 and other declarations of the private banks over the United States, who now publicly have dominated and bankrupted Europe and are busy bringing in austerity to bankrupt and impoverish the public, so they're too busy trying to find food than to fight back, so the social engineers can roll in with welfare payments if they'll take the vaccines to soft-kill their families. Okay, continuing here as we report on the global offensives against humanity. Reporting from FEMA Region 6. Yeah, I used to run liners like 10 years ago about deep behind enemy lines, FEMA Region 6, and I'd get program directors of affiliates going, what is this, behind enemy lines? Or are you saying America's the enemy? Region 6? What is this stuff? And we'd play a clip from Red Dawn. Guys, YouTube Red Dawn radio transmission, something like that. And it's like, hi, this is, transmitting from, the free area into the Soviet-occupied area. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. Puts out some codes for special forces behind enemy lines and then says, and remember, if you're on or behind enemy lines, this song is for you. And then they go into the music. We need to get that liner back. That used to be in the computer up there, John. And just for some reason, it just disappeared out of the system. But I want to get that clip from Red Dawn, and you play that going out of the break with music. It sounds pretty powerful. Because that's what we're actually doing. I mean, that's what this is. But see, it's a psychological warfare takeover. So all the regular institutions and things are still there, but it's a creeping takeover, you see, which is much harder to beat than a bunch of Soviets parachuting out of the sky. So, I mean, it's not a joke I come to you from behind enemy lines. I'm an occupied former republic. We are, the banks admit, the big mega banks, they have conquered the United States. This is real. And, but wait, the basketball's on, Dancing with the Stars is on, and we've got CNN, we've got the American flag everywhere. People put the American flag everywhere, and they think that means worshiping the system, crying and worshiping government and waving American flags. And it now symbolizes gullibility and that you want to be used. And if you say to one of them, hey, the troops are dying of DU poisoning, most of them don't want to be in the wars, they go, shut up, traitor. But we need to end the war. And I've seen these videos. I saw one they just released a few days ago, Adam Kokesh did, where they're talking to this woman, a Mitt Romney supporter, and they're like, but the wars are illegal, and they're about resources, and they're wrong. And she's like, you just hate our military. We need to support them and support the wars. And they're like, but supporting wars doesn't support the military. The majority of the troops in major polls want to be out of these wars. And the majority of the money given to, to presidential candidates is to Ron Paul. She's like, that's not true. And they're like, yeah, it's the SEC filings. No, it's not. You just hate the military. Well, actually, I was, in Fallujah, the cameraman says, and was in Iraq for years as a Marine. Oh, yeah, right. And I have to know who the guy is. He was. And then, oh, yeah, the troops want the war. The troops want the war. I'm for the troops. And she's got like American flags festooned on her, and she's waving a big, they have no conception of reality, these people. They have no conception. They think the government and the police is America, and we're like the enemy. Government is God, government is good, like in North Korea. Anything it does is infallible, And the cops now more and more believe this. I mean, I'm real sad that all over the country, we go places, and we try to go into city council, we try to just film on the street, and cops will walk over and go, turn it off. Get out of here. And I've actually had my reporters arrested. We're having to sue Pittsburgh. And I saw that footage in Pittsburgh, and the police, the day the thing had ended, they wanted to have something, so they went into the university area with people out doing studies and eating sandwiches, you know, out in the park. And they announced, get out of here, no one allowed out, period, no congregating. We have suspended regular liberties in the city. And it's like something out of a science fiction movie over loudspeakers. And so, you know, the kids start getting up, and then they've been blocked in. They're not allowed to leave. This is a beta test. They want to see if they can have cops attack innocent people dressed up in their anonymity, you know, cloaking psycho outfits, their torturer outfits. And I've got video of just people trying to get out and women on bicycles and cops beating them. I mean, you could kill somebody just like full power with those nightsticks, just like, you know, the type of blow you'd use to kill somebody. And people running into the dorms, and the cops went into the dorms like sharks in a feeding frenzy and were arresting the young people. And dudes up on a hilltop, and they're kettling everybody in, blocking them where they can't leave. Burma's cuts down an alleyway where we wouldn't even have the footage. And they come to do up on a hilltop, and there's a local, what was it, NBC news team. And they said, who are you with? NBC. Do you have the G20 credential just to be in the city? The G20, the global banker heads, they give you a credential. See, the police were under the foreign banker command. And they go, oh, okay, you can go. Well, do you have G20 credentials? And Rob's like, and we got the tape later back. His camera's still rolling. He goes, well, no, it's the First Amendment, but I'm not inside the G20. All right, on your knees. And they put bags over people's heads in the backs of flatback trucks. He goes to a military base, and there's troops with the police stomping around, making fun of people, watching them urinate, making fun of them, people with bags on their heads. And, I mean, it was all, and the cops were like crazed, and the military, the hand-picked ones they'd gotten were just stomping around in the rain. They had them all tied up in the rain, getting off on stomping around and looking. It's just like hour after hour of power tripping like a child. I mean, that's the country I live in. About to walk in a suit and tie with a microphone into a big city council building, and cops pull up. Who are you? Get out of here. You're not going in there. Because they had, I guess, intelligence. I mean, I announced my guys were going about the death of this guy. You're not going in there. No, you're not allowed to. Well, what's the law? It doesn't matter. Just get out of here. Just following orders, pal. I mean, that is bona fide naked tyranny. Okay, I'm going to go to break, come back, go to Freedom Fighter, Mark, Pete, Justin, Max. I'll get to all of you here. Briefly, it is your funding of our operation that makes this broadcast possible, but that's not the main reason that you need to get involved in this. That's just a caveat. The Alex Pack, which is the Healthy Start Pack, has a tangy tangerine and just the other incredible things that the top developers of these systems recommend, like Dr. Joel Wallach. The tangy tangerine is just incredible, but you can also get it by itself. And our listeners get discounts when you sign up to be a distributor at InfoWarsTeam.com. And I have lost now over 40 pounds on this. I mean, I was really fat, as you know, and working out and all the rest of it did not really help because I just didn't have the minerals I needed. And now, used to, I would eat like 2 plates of barbecue. I don't even eat a half plate of it now. Used to, I'd eat a whole steak and then want to order another. Now I eat half the steak and, take the rest home. Now I, eat half a bowl of pasta and a salad. I don't want 3 bowls of pasta. It's because I'm getting the minerals I need. Beyond Tangy Tangerine, InfoWarsTeam.com. We'll be right back. Stay with us. By the way, I just talked to Darren McBreen and Marcos Morales, our reporters, and there's been big developments in Roswell, Georgia, the site of the suspicious death of an evil chicken farmer who's now dead thanks to the New World Order on Gen 21. There's been a new development with the police and others. They'll be joining us at the bottom of the next hour. Right now, let's go back to your calls. Freedom Fighter in Texas, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Alex, here in Austin on May 12th, hopefully we will elect Clay Defoe mayor. Clay Defoe is a longtime Ron Paul enthusiast who has been continually embarrassing the entire Austin City
Sir,
Council.
I'm sorry, I can't understand you, and I appreciate your call. Your phone's distorted. Let's go ahead and talk to Mark in Nevada. Mark, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Alex, it's good to talk to you, brother. I am pissed, okay? I'm originally from Canada, and I immigrated here. I'm in FEMA Region 9 in Nevada. It's such a police state here, it makes me sick. I had a vaccine injury, Alex, in Canada, okay? The thing almost killed me. The doctors abandoned me.
My uncle was almost killed by a tetanus shot. My mother never got sick, took a flu shot, it almost killed her. Like 10 years ago, because she was going to do a triathlon and wanted to do it a month before. I mean, it's dead. They're killing us. They admit the flu shot gives you the flu, and they admit it never protects you from the next flu, and it reduces your immunity and gives you Alzheimer's on record. But they say it doesn't give you autism, though. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Alex, the day I watched the groundbreaking show with you and Jesse Ventura on conspiracy theory, and I use that title, that show, very loosely. That show is all facts. It was like watching exactly what happened to me. I couldn't believe others were suffering.
For those that don't know, Homeland Security threatened True TV. There was a bunch of behind-the-scenes stuff I can't talk about, but they pulled it from television because it normally airs more than 50 times over the next year. It aired once, the police state episode that I, of course, was instrumental in engineering. I mean, it had the biggest footprint in it of any of the shows I've consulted on or been in. And so tell us what happened to you.
Well, pretty much, if you go in there and, you know, I'm 35 years old. I'm a few years younger than you, and I missed the hepatitis B vaccine in high school. I just went in for a checkup, and these nurses, this lady looked like Nurse Ratched, okay? She was like the most evil. I should have got a hint right there. And she's telling me, okay, we can vaccinate you today. And I thought I missed a mandatory vaccine. Big, huge posters, Alex, saying hepatitis B vaccine. It's safe. It's safe. Okay, I'm not a homosexual. I'm not an intravenous drug user. I'm not at risk. Okay, I got a kid. I'm a single
Since
parent.
they began inoculating, everybody's getting it. But so what happens? They give you the shot that they give babies, part of their brain damaging regimen they put them on at birth. What happened next?
Right. I almost dropped dead. My whole body went hypersensitive. As you know, it's a 3-shot series. The first shot, all my skin went red. Immediately, I was just fatigued. I had joint pain.
Oh, but let me guess, they told you that it wasn't the shot that did it.
You got it, sir. It was a coincidence.
And it's not torture to break people's arms, to make them answer questions, or to taser 5-year-olds. It's not torture. We should all wear taser bracelets when we fly. Homeland Security's looking at me. That's freedom. I appreciate your call, extremist. I mean, you know, okay, I am the bad man. HBO, what they're doing, I guess I'm evil because I think HBO's doing bad things. By the way, see how we're conditioned? Nobody's even calling in upset about HBO. You know what HBO's doing? If you just joined us, I'll tell you when we come up in the next hour. Cover a bunch of news and your call. Stay with us.